Well, hello and welcome to the Gauge Look and another Radious Total War Warhammer 2 unit overview. And who do we have in front of us? The big, the great, the sexy Grombrindal. So of course we're with the Dwarfs. Now it should be noted the Dwarfs obviously don't have as much unit variety in the game due to having no cavalry and a lack of mobility. So I don't quite have a full army here. There is a few more Radius units and I've either not chosen them because they're very similar to a lot of the units I've selected, or that they're faction specific. But this is the Dwarfs itself, so let's go through it. As always, we're not focusing on the lore, we are simply looking at what the units are, what they do, and their descriptions. So let's start. Okay, these are pretty simple. These are just a Dwarf warrior variant. They look so cool though with their crazy little long axes. Armoured, anti-large, exactly the same as Dwarf warriors, obviously lack shield, but they are anti-large. Very useful, don't see why not. It's a good one to have. Iron Hammer Warriors. Now obviously, bearing in mind, if you're not used to Radius, a lot of these armour and attacks look a lot higher than normal, and they are, but it's fairly well balanced across all the factions you see. Sometimes the Dwarfs suffer in overhaul mods because they tend to make other factions' units really good as well, and Radius has done that somewhat as well. However, he has been buffing and changing Dwarfs around. It's a faction I play a lot, and I certainly know from the tabletop days. I doubt you can see it, but I have a lot of Dwarf figurines up there. So yeah, it's good to see they do hold up pretty well, bar against, you know, Chaos Warriors or something like that. So Iron Armor Warriors, Armor Shielded, Anti-Infantry, Armor Sundering, and Charge Defense Against All. These are really, really good all-round infantry. Obviously slow as hell, but with the Armor Sundering, it really does help. Obviously the lack of armor piercing is a bit unusual with an Armor Sundering unit, but they're just so cool, these units, and I do like using them. I make different themed armies when I play as the Dwarfs. Powerful Dwarf Warriors using mighty iron plate armor and can stand against all types of enemies. It's true. Obviously easily flanked with that speed, but they are Dwarfs. These guys are potentially my favourite looking unit in the game, and the variety that Radius and the team have added to this is just incredible. You know, you've got the guys with engineer goggles on, you've got dragons. Oh, it's just amazing. Armoured Shielded, Armour Piercing Old Grumblers. These are really good stalwart units. These are before the absolute elite, but very, very good. And this is what I think about when I see Dwarfs. The Dragon Company was created from the Ulfar Stormhammer, prince of the Durazan clan, to reclaim the stronghold of Karak Ungor, famous for his battle cry, "A dragon! A dragon!" I like it. I like it a lot. Okay, let's move on. We have the Greatbeards, Armour Shielded, melee expert. I remember reading about some of these guys actually. I think Gottfried and Felix mentioned Greatbeards. I think these are this even older Longbeards, if I remember rightly. Dwarf Longbeards are the oldest. In fact, they are. They live longer than 500 years. They can gain the honour. I could write this for myself. Not good. So these are just slightly better Longbeards. Absolutely cool looking, and they look old as hell. I love it. I love the weapon variety, I might add as well. Okay, now these are Giant Slayers. I believe actually Radius added these as Demon Slayers first, but the Demon Slayer, I might be getting this the wrong way around, but the Demon Slayers were added as an actual unit, so we've changed these to Giant Slayers. So Armour Piercing, Anti-Large, Fast for Dwarf, and Death Blow. These are just even better than normal Slayers. I love the Slayers, man. I absolutely love them. I almost feel, and this isn't to do with Radius, this is just Slayers in general, they almost need some sort of extra buff. Because when any of you guys that know Warhammer, you know that Slayers can wreak absolute havoc against, well, just read Cortex and Felix. And yet these guys die pretty quickly. And not just the Radius, in all vanilla mods and everything else. But I don't know what you could possibly do to make Slayers, because you can't make them armoured, so I don't know. But that is just my opinion on them. Hammerers with shields. Normal hammerers, but with shields, obviously a little bit less weapon attack. I love this. I love this. They look really cool. I really like hammerers. They still have very high weapon attack, but they do have slightly less armor to compensate for that, and I like that a lot. So just a hammerers with shields. These guys are awesome. These are Iron Breakers, but with great weapons. So they can't flow their bombs, and obviously they don't have shields, but Jesus, look at them. 128, armor piercing, anti-large. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Great units, great looking units. I think they've just got the Ironbeard description. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. Now, the last two are interesting. They're the ones I know the least about. And probably the ones that might bring up the most consternation. But at the same time, I find them very, very useful. Because, as I've mentioned a few times, and this isn't just at Radious, this is just in general in Total War, the Dwarfs aren't amazingly well balanced to compensate. I mean, they do have great armour, but when they come up against the heavily armoured units of any other faction, they don't necessarily outgun them. And the ranged, obviously, arguably the best range in the game, but, you know, there is more utility for other factions in ranged as well. So these guys add something a little bit for me. So these are armoured, anti-large, friendly, and these are basically elite anti-large units. Strongest warriors of their lodges, Grimsir Berserkers, the Fury of Grimnir, given form, with runes hammered into their flesh, and dozens of powerful artifacts on their bodies. The Spirit of Grimnir walk with them. Now that's obviously straight out of something in the Black Library, so they've obviously been referenced. Never seen these in the tabletop, but I think these really add. Obviously they're a bit faster than normal Dwarfs as well, they're more like Slayer speed, and that is incredible. Obviously heavily armoured, that being said they'll still get ripped apart by missile infantry, but really, really good, and they look so cool as well. So these are elite anti-large units. That being said, remember guys, that these are not as powerful as anti-large like spearmen units of like the Knights of More, Halberdiers and things like that. That being said, bit faster, and are probably better in melee combat than them. So, and these are basically the version of these, but anti-infantry, and these guys are extremely useful. These are basically armoured slayers. They've got frostbite, which is interesting. Known across the realms for their prowess in battle and absolute lack of fear when facing strong enemies, Grungay Berserkers are rightly feared by everyone, and these are potentially my favourite Dwarven unit actually. I just find them so useful. The charge defence is handy, but they also have great charge bonuses, these two, both of them, and that is very, very useful for a unit for a faction that lacks extreme mobility. Really enjoy playing the Dwarfs, with the Radious mod in particular. Drakebeard Arcs Throwers. So these aren't exactly missile infantry, but I thought I'd throw them in. These are skirmish infantry. Armoured shielded, decent melee combat and special raid weapon. They're not quite good enough to be what I'd suggest them to be, and that's not necessarily criticism of the stats, but these would almost be like your line infantry. They'll maybe get 1 or 2 throws with their axes in before the charge of the enemy. They have decent melee combat and obviously got special range. They're not quite good enough to that, but early on, if you get them, you can use them for that. Use them as line infantry, and obviously they're going to get a range shot in or two, which is really, really good. Okay, Dwarf Scouts. Now, these are probably one of the lightest armoured Burst Slayer units you get in a Dwarfs, but these guys are incredible. Now, whether it's planned or not, with all the bonuses you get with Dwarf Rangers, because that's what these guys counts on, this missile damage can go up to such high levels. It's absolutely amazing. They're quite... well, they're not actually fast. I thought they were faster than that. They've obviously got this little thing so they can get away from cavalry when they need to. And they're just really, really good. They are reasonably good melee combat, and so you would probably want to keep them out of melee combat and bar the very tier 1 infantry. You know, if tier 1 against Lizardmen, these guys will lose in a battle. But these scouts are fantastic. Really like them, and decent range for a Dwarf. These are a bit like the Axe Throwers. Stonebreakers, again, idea is that they could almost be line infantry. Obviously, they're good against gates, but you know, they're not quite elite enough for line infantry. But God, early on, these guys could be really good. And look at their little backpacks, absolutely cool. Armor shielded, armor piercing, special range weapons. Sorry, we never read this, did we? Scouts are the long range eyes and ears of Dwarf settlements. They patrol for the safety of the hold, keeping watch on Dwarfs' many enemies and tracking dangerous beasts, and explore hidden valleys and underways in search of new pathways. Pretty standard. I mean, these are easy enough to imagine existing. As I say, I really like Scouts. Stonebreakers. Stonebreaker clan is famous for their masonry and miners. This prominent clan currently is located within the confines of the industrial city of Zufbar, where their great skills are in great demand. As I say, really good. I don't find an awful lot of use for either of those two units, but I think in a thematic army they could be used quite well, you know. If you use some sort of claw formation, you had 4 of them, yeah, you could use it. I'm just not so good at micromanaging. Okay, Treasure Hunters, armoured, vanguard deployment, poison attacks. Really cool looking units as well. Quite similar to the sort of Bugman Rangers looks. Obviously don't have regeneration. That's what they got. They've got some decent magic resistance, of course, and they got the Strider. And obviously that poison attack goes a long way. These are the Dwarf Warband from the Mordheim top game. Very effective range fighters. There you go, guys. Never played Mordheim as a tabletop game. Played it as a PC game, but not as a tabletop. Sons of Uluk. Armoured, armour piercing, and DC melee combatant. Highly armoured. Obviously, they don't have shielded. They've got very good melee combatant actually, and very good range. These guys could hold the line. They're not quite on the same levels as armour, these guys, but the amount of shots they'll get in first, very impressive units, and of course armour piercing. Really like them, they look very cool as well. Gunnison Dwarfs, very similar to these guys, not armour piercing however, and they use very good crossbows instead. I believe these guys have hammers. They do indeed, really big hammers. Okay, let's see what it says about these two. Clan Gunnison is also known as the War Son. The Dwarf clan was once the royal bloodline of King Gun, the first lord of Mount Silverspear before its eventual collapse by the hands of greenskin invaders. Okay. Clan Uluk is an ancient dwarf clan that can trace their lineage to Uluk Regax, a Thane who held a prestigious position beneath the first High King, Snorri Whitebeard. All very cool, and I particularly like the descriptions that I'm reading in this dwarf situation, so thank you for that, Team Radious. Let's do our standard little battle. Let's just go. Go on, Grombrindle, big sexy beast. Okay. If you can just attack separately, I'd like to see you charge. Silly dwarf slayers. Definitely think we need to hear a few more Scottish accents. I've never been quite taken by the odd northern accent. Not that there's anything wrong with the northern accent, but everyone just associates dwarves with Scots. Obviously Grombrindle's Scottish, and I believe Ungrim is as well, but... Okay, we'll give... I take it I messed up here, right? Looks like I did. Oh, I didn't realise the Stonebreakers actually were like miners. I may have to rethink what I said about them. I think they could hold the line very well. The ammunition levels, yeah, maybe have to rethink that. Now the dwarfs are, well, I mean, look, they've almost broken most of their army already, which is no surprise to me. Brindle's doing pretty well. Right, let's have a quick sneak through. Let's say it only looks like the Slayers have lost a few units, which is no surprise. Long axes, 31. Great beards. Slayers are just causing carnage. Hammers with shields, great weapons. Grunsey Berserkers. These guys probably rip the most out of this. Utterly fantastic units, these guys. Okay, Drake Bears with axe. Treasure Hunters are doing surprisingly well. Sons of Uluk. I mean, that's what you're doing so well. As well. See. So yeah, going pretty well. I think these Berserkers would come out on top. Slayers are slightly ahead, but it's only because they started earlier. I think they would... maybe. What a battle, though. I'm going to have to rethink these guys, though. I maybe did these guys a bit of a disservice about saying they couldn't hold the line. So I will check that out in the campaign and maybe get back to you. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining as always. That is the Dwarf factions units with the Radious mod. And we will move on to the next one. Please let me know if you've got any suggestions for the next one. Otherwise, I'll just carry on. I know we're getting good views on this. Please remember to hit that like button, subscribe, and of course, check out the Radious Steam page. And if you want to support them, their Patreon page as well. Anyway, folks, thanks and goodbye.